I just wanted to sort of talk about the socioeconomics policy that panel that you've actually put together and the speakers that you've selected. When you actually started that process, what were the key thoughts that you had in mind when you were bringing those panel members together?
A great question. Look, the thing that was on my mind was that technology, on an average, you would say is an enabler. But these technologies that we are dealing with has not only the potential, but the acceleration in terms of how it's going to change the way people work and live. And one of the things on my mind was that if it happens across the entire nations, for example, what would be the impact from a socio and economic perspective? And that was the thought that I kind of start driving the drive in terms of looking for people who can contribute. Now, the simple idea was that if it's socioeconomic, then go find somebody who is sociologist and go find somebody who's economist, which we did. We brought one economist and maybe one who had a socioeconomic background. But more importantly, my idea was that we should also bring people from a very diverse cultures and diverse professional backgrounds or trainings, because they are the one who were they're the one who are actually going to tell us something which a normal economist or a sociologist may not necessarily tell. And if you look at the chemistry during that session, I think one of the things people like about this authoritarian leadership, it's some people said to me that it was politically incorrect. But yes, this is something we really wanted to hear. We don't want it to sort of hear the same towing the line, run-of-the-mill kind of taglines and conversation. We want to hear something which is provoking, controversial maybe, but we will think about it. And there's no right and wrong answer here.
Right.
So that was the idea.
Education with future of work, particularly for the CXO level, is changing at a rapid pace. While technological revolution has been in decades, now it's actually becoming less than decades. What do you think was the outcome, and how do you think the next generation can be prepared for with this input today?
I think the key takeaway for myself, from especially what Tansri Rebecca said and other panelists as well in the context of education, that there are two things that stands out very well. One is obviously the relevance, but the second part is also the element of creativity and agility. So it's not just about getting yourself trained and educated into fundamentals. Fundamentals are important for sure, but how would you learn the agility aspects? How would you bring that into your training, into your upbringing? And it's not just the education itself, is what is around the entire ecosystem. She talks about the ecosystem. So the ecosystem is not necessarily just, can we change subjects that we are teaching at the university? It is also a change of mindset at home, for example. It's also the fact that, classroom training is not the only way of getting yourself training. At Davos, they talked about lifelong training and lifelong learning. So I think those are the things that, for me, is a takeaway, that traditional models of educating yourself are slowly and gradually evolving into new models of education.
You actually work for one of the leading technology companies from the US, Salesforce, and they are changing how work is done today in the gig economy. How do you see that job being relevant in the next 3 years?
I think it's a combination. As an organization, one of the things we are focusing a lot, and before I joined this organization, I didn't realize that it is that much of a focus. We have this 1+1+1 model. So we invest 1% of our equity, 1% of our time, and 1% of our product. And this model is effectively applicable in everybody in the organization, top to bottom, all the way. And it's a serious business. You have to actually report as to which projects you are going to spend 1% of your time, and that 1% of time could be 7 days a week, or 7 days a year, or 40 hours a year, something like that. Uh, and then same goes with the other parts. So for example, 1% equity, we committed to 1% equity back in 2003 or 2001 when the company was small, but we maintained that. 1% of products, anything to do with the educational institutions or non-profit, we make that commitment with them.
Right.
Internally, how we are transforming ourselves and the way people are working, the model is evolving. I mean, if you come to our office, you'll see there's no rooms for anybody. Everybody sits around a table. Everybody's hot desking, whether you're a SVP or AVP or VP, whatever you are, whosoever you are. You can actually bring your family. I see a lot of kids running around. Some, on average, I will see 2 or 3 kids running around, not necessarily 20, but the point is that if somebody has to, it's a flexible model. It's when I joined the company, I took some pictures in the kitchen area and some of the sitting areas, and I sent it to my wife and said, "Guess where I am?" And she said, "It doesn't look like you're at the hotel. Where are you? What is this place?" I said, "This is my workplace." So that was a kind of interesting shift and change for me in terms of the way they assimilate, your home, your family, your work. So I think that is one change. The third part is the mobility.
Right.
And I think mobility, as you know today, you can work from anywhere, and the policies of the organization is such that you are free to. You don't have to stick to one place.
So are you enjoying this change, and how relevant is it to the Future of Work conference that we put together?
Yeah, I'm definitely enjoying, and I'm enjoying for 2 facts. One is products obviously good, but that's not the main reason. I think that the cultural values that I see is what I'm enjoying, and this is where I'm putting my trust. And I think in the context of Future of Work, as I said earlier, it's not, technologies will come and shift the way we do work or think or etc. And humans are very nimble in that sense. They will adapt to the change eventually, whether they resist or not, don't resist. The relevance from Future of Work perspective is that the ability to transform yourself, to adapt yourself to the change and be able to see that change coming. The most important part is that, are you able to see that change coming to you? And then what do you do with it? How do you adapt? Are you agile enough? Are you are you able to bounce back when you get hit? Are you curious and willing to understand as to what is going on around you? And I think if you have these 3 things with you, and a lot of people talked about today, cognitive and non-cognitive aspects of this whole thing, and eventually, as a human beings, that's what we were left with. A lot of things we do today will probably be offloaded because they can be done through algorithms or calculations. But eventually, the thing that we will still hold with us is the human judgment, and be able to the agility that we will have to be able to change ourselves and adapt ourselves. And I think that's, from a Future Work perspective, that's what I'm looking at.
How do you see your children's job in the future will be like?
Very interesting question. My boys are only 9 and 7 now, 9 and 6 actually. And I sometimes I have this job, this conversation with them as to what do you want to be? So my elder one says he want to be a blogger or YouTuber. The little fellow, he also talks about this Ryan character, which he watches on the telly, and he thinks that he want to be that kid. So I mean, the reality is that these kids will not grow up and be able to even understand what was a sales job or a service job or those kind of things. I don't think they'll probably relate to those things. At best, by the time they get there in 10 years, or let's say 12 years, they would probably be able to relate to, let's say, data science, maybe artificial intelligence, and they will start going into those kind of roles. Or the roles that requires a lot more human interaction,
Right.
that's where they will end up, my view.
Interesting. All right. Thank you very much for talking to us, and great to have you.
Thank you, Anand, and
you.
thanks for having me here as well.
Yeah.